So a lot of people are curious about like how ChatGPT and everything works. Do you know how it works? Like just give like a brief overview.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thai Podcast. In today's episode, we'll be discussing about general AI. Hello, my name is Brendan Nago,
I'm Colin.
and we are joined by a very special guest.
My name is Ethan Kuruvilla.
Could you please give yourself an introduction?
So I'm a junior at Bellevue High School, and I'm really interested in computer science and artificial intelligence. I've taken numerous courses in the past. I've also taught it in villages in India, and I'm super excited about the future of AI, and I'm really happy to discuss it here today.
Okay, firstly, I'd like to hear some of your thoughts about AI and how it's going to replace like software engineering jobs.
So I know there's been a lot of talk about how AI can replace software engineers and coders and stuff like that. And although that may be true to an extent, I believe that there's still a lot of opportunity with AI, and new jobs actually open up with AI, like learning how to prompt engineer, learning how to code machine learning, learning how to train AI. So although I may seem like coders are going to be replaced, there also is like a lot of opportunity that opens up. And even then, coders are still always going to be in demand.
Okay, I heard you mention prompt engineering. Well, what's your experience with that? And do you have any like thoughts on how how being a better prompt engineer can help your programming?
Could you also define it first as well? Because a lot of people don't know what it is.
So prompt engineering essentially is when you learn how to give the proper prompts to the chatbot where you get the output that you desire. And basically, when you master prompt engineering, you kind of get the exact output that you want from the chatbot, and that's basically what you're striving for. And I think this is really important because these chatbots, the only thing they know is what you input in, what you ask it. So if you can really master how they learn and how they respond to input, you can really develop like the best input possible to get the best output that you're looking for.
Yeah, a lot of like AI, like their output is based on like how good your input is. Like if you just don't give good input, they're not gonna give good output back.
Do you have any like tips on like the difference between like mediocre input and like good input? Like what creates the right syntax in order to get the right output?
I mean, I'm not like a professional on this kind of stuff, but I'd say when you're, I guess, like maybe using it to help you code and stuff, like something mediocre would be like maybe just saying like in words, I want this X, Y, and Z. That's kind of general, and it kind of leaves most of the interpretation up to the chatbot, which may not be what you're looking for. But I think being very specific in what you want is what's really important in prompt engineering. Like if you're coding, maybe give it code that you already have and kind of give it like a very clear outline, maybe step-by-step instructions too. And when you do that and you're very specific, there's a higher chance of it giving you what you want.
So a lot of people are curious about like how ChatGPT and everything works. Do you know how it works? Like just give like a brief overview.
I mean, ChatGPT, it's like a generative pre-trained transformer. So basically, I guess how these chatbots are trained is that like when it's getting made, it gets like a bunch of data, like millions and millions of data of user input, and it kind of goes like word by word, and it kind of detects patterns in sentences, and that's how it kind of gets an idea of what the user's inputting. And after that, it has like a bunch of trained responses that it has to certain patterns, and it kind of responds like that. That's kind of like the basic idea of it.
What do you think about like DeepSeek and how it works?
I mean, I think DeepSeek is really cool because it's really highlighting how much AI is growing right now. And I know AI is like just starting to gain traction, but the amount of growth we've seen in such a short amount of time is just really fascinating. And it shows that like all of these countries, like companies and even countries are competing to kind of get at the upper hand. And it's really cool to see all this innovation spurring. And I'm really excited to see what comes next too.
OpenAI, like they accuse DeepSeek of like basically stealing their model and then making like a predictive model based on that, which like it's supposed to be better than like the original model. What do you think about that?
I mean, I haven't played around with the DeepSeek a whole lot to say kind of like which is better. But as for like the copying thing, I think whenever a new technology is introduced, there's like a lot of copying that's going to happen. And I wouldn't call it exactly copying, but rather just like competition, in where like one person sees another idea and kind of uses that and kind of builds upon that. And it's really cool to see how like users shift from one to another. Like ChatGPT, like DeepSeek may have like 90% of what ChatGPT has, but it has like some certain things that are better per se, and everyone starts using DeepSeek all of a sudden. So although like a lot of things may be similar from product to product, slight differences and slight improvements are really cool to see, and it helps users get interested and switch their ideas.
Okay, shifting topics. In a previous episode, we discussed how AI is going to affect different industries and jobs, right? We talked a little bit about software engineering at the start of this episode, but I'd like to hear more generally about how you think AI will affect like maybe non-programming, non-computer related fields like finance and that type of niche that you are more familiar with.
I mean, I know for finance, a lot of my friends invest a lot. And with the introduction of AI, they're actually starting to use AI algorithms to kind of detect like stock patterns. And I think this is really cool because like a lot of people love doing stocks, and this AI kind of just enhances that experience, because if you can run algorithms that analyze previous stock patterns, you can kind of get a sense of what's going to happen next. And using these AI algorithms to predict that, one, is going to help people make a lot more money. Two, it's going to make the competition with stock trading way more diverse and competitive. So it's just really cool, I think, to see how AI kind of enhances every industry and spurs competition and innovation.
Do you think like AI could like basically replace like professional traders? Because if stocks is all about analyzing trends and like patterns and like conditions, what if it's like it's so good that it could analyze all of that like way faster and at a much larger scale than any human could? Wouldn't that just replace like all traders?
I mean, I think that like AI and computers have like things that they can do better than humans always, like computation, like quick computation stuff. Like computers are always going to be better at that. But I think there's like something fundamental with human beings that computers can't really replace. And that's kind of like that emotional intelligence and kind of that like instinct and judgment. And I think those things are as, if not more important than like the critical stuff. And I think like human values and human traits of like emotion and judgment and instinct are going to beat out a computer any day. And I think those values are going to remain important in like a lot of fields. So it's going to be really hard for computers to just like take over everything.
But what if they could have a ton of data on like consumer values, consumer behavior, that kind of stuff, and like they can just predict like what humans would do, like what their emotion response would be?
I mean, I don't think it's at that point yet, but I think that's a good point, and AI could get there someday. And I think that's a discussion like we could have maybe later down the line when AI develops to where it like even inhibits like human behaviors and emotions. That would be a really interesting discussion. But I think like right now it hasn't gotten to that point yet where it can like completely replace human behavior and like human tasks. But I see it heading towards that direction, and it's going to be interesting where that ends up actually.
What do you think the best way people can get into AI and start using AI to help benefit their lives? Like if you're like working finance, for example, using it to help work out your financial strategies and that type of stuff. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, that's a really good question. I think not even just like professionals working in finance, but even like kids in school. I think like AI is like really important to learn. And I think like in the future, it's going to start to become like a thing where every kid kind of gets to learn it, maybe in school even. That's going to be really important. But I think it's going to be helpful for anyone working anywhere. And if you're a student, you can use it to like help you study, make flashcards, stuff like that. And if you're in a professional space, like Brendan mentioned, like finance, you can use it to start learning how to trade stocks or manage money. And I think the really cool thing about AI, it's not really specific in one field. It can be like used in a wide array of fields and for a wide array of ages too. So no matter what you're doing, how old you are, there's always something to learn from AI, and learning AI is always going to be beneficial.
To what extent should we be worried about companies basically controlling everyone? Because if, let's say, OpenAI, like let's say everyone was using ChatGPT, right? Since OpenAI is not open source, if they were to like sneak in some sort of bias that they wanted people to have, like, oh, everyone should invest in AI right now, that kind of stuff, like that could like affect people. Like they could control the people basically. Like how much should we be worried about that?
I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, I guess AI always has like hidden bias that it can influence people. But I think that's like, we see that already with things like news and social media. And
I mean, like, what if OpenAI was to like encode something in the AI so that basically like tells other people what to do, that kind of stuff.
like it tells people what to do.
No, like it is like if OpenAI, it's like if everyone uses ChatGPT to learn everything, right?
Uh-huh.
Then OpenAI could like control the people basically, because like they could encode something in that like makes people believe something.
Like a propaganda kind
Yeah,
of thing.
basically kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, that is a downside. I think it's very possible too. Like at a certain point when everyone is starting to use these things, they can start to like kind of realize their power and kind of maybe like embed things that influence people. And yeah, I think that actually could be a problem because it can kind of like instill beliefs in people or information even that may not be true or maybe biased to one side. But like as I said before, I think that's a problem not really specific to AI. That's a problem with like just mainstream media in general, like news, stuff like that. People are like as reliant on those things and even social media for information. And
We know how misinformation.
exactly. Yeah, and there's so much bias in that stuff too. So yeah, I think that's a general problem. But yeah, AI can definitely bring that up too.
So how do you think people can get information like know what to filter out from AI that's not necessarily the best output they're receiving, but also be able to take the good output and use that to benefit their convenience from AI?
Okay, so I think like some things you get from AI, they can't really be biased, like strict, I guess, information or like if you're coding like code, like things like that. There isn't really like an underlying bias, but I guess when you start asking it for like I don't know opinions or like things where things can get subjective, that's when problems can start to arise. So I would say when you're working with AI, keep it strictly technical and just use it for things that will like help you technically and not to kind of get information that could be biased or could swing you one way.
Because earlier you mentioned that like news and stuff can be just as biased. So where can people get information that's like accurate if they can't rely on the AI models that are like most people probably think that the AI models are very objective, but truthfully, there's a lot of subjective programming in data it's been trained on, and as such, it acts in such a manner that it's not perfectly objective, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's a problem with like everything. And the truth is, there isn't like one like perfect place where all the information is perfect, and that's kind of like a problem in like mainstream media for the past like 20, 30 years. So me personally, I don't just rely on one website or one news source or just one type of AI for my information. I kind of like get similar stories from like a wide different amount of like news sources. And once you get like a perspective from like multiple different sources with different biases, you kind of see what facts like line up, and the things that line up are probably true. But then the things that are different, you can kind of tell that maybe this side thinks this or thinks this side thinks that. So overall, I think getting like different perspectives of the same thing can kind of help you come to a consensus on what you can really take away from it.
Okay, I have a new interesting question for you.
Yeah.
So how do you think AI can provide inaccurate information in these fields when you're trying to use AI to benefit those fields, and how can that inaccurate information be harmful when people become over reliant on AI?
Like, what misinformation?
Like, I mean, when
someone's
sometimes AI will make mistakes and stuff. Like, what if an engineer is using AI to help them figure out some of their projects, and it screws up a calculation by like a landslide, and they end up using that AI stuff, and that harms them. Or like in code, it could like make a major mistake.
I mean, humans are also wrong as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you have like your teacher or like some worker help you like do something,
The same thing can happen.
yeah, just this can be wrong
Yeah.
as well.
So obviously AI isn't like a replacement. It can't be a replacement because it's never going to be like as of now at least, it's never going to be something that can replace humans entirely. But I think what AI should be used for right now is kind of like a third leg or like a cane, like something that you can like use to support you when you're stuck or like when you need some special assistance. So I think if you use it in like the way that like Brendan was outlining, where people would just like rely on it completely to get all their tasks done, there's going to be like a huge amount of problems. But I think if you use AI kind of just as a helping tool or as something that you can like rely on if you're stuck, or something that can help you break through with some small things, you kind of avoid the kind of big mistakes that like you were talking about.
What exciting things do you see in the future that's coming with AI?
I think in the future, I mean, it's hard to tell, but anytime there's like new technology, innovations just happen like boom, boom, boom. Like in Silicon Valley, there's like so many new AI startups getting started every single day, and they're all trying to tackle like different problems. And as you can see, like with the DeepSeek thing, like it just came out of nowhere, and now like China's leading in the AI industry. And it's like really crazy, and it's like a really exciting time, because whenever there's a new technology, innovations just happen like boom, 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 and so many different people are competing. And when people are competing, that's when innovation is really its strongest. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. New things maybe can be like a new chatbot, maybe like actual robots. We've seen like people are starting to make like actual robots with AI in them, and yeah, it's going to be really exciting.
Do you have anything like you specifically want to talk about?
I'd say like I just really want to emphasize like how important it is to learn like this AI stuff, especially if you're like a young kid in high school or even in college or even in middle school, however old you are. Like AI is going to be really important in the future, and the earlier you learn it, the earlier you kind of master not only the technical stuff but the applications of it, the more useful it's going to be in your life, and the more of an upper hand you'll have. And it's really important in our future. So start learning more about it.
Thank you very much, Ethan, for coming on to this podcast. This has been the Thai Podcast. Thank you for watching, and make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you.